In our last session, I suggested that you save watching documentaries for another day so that I could give you a few tips. So today, we're going to watch a documentary video that connects to the issue we're studying together: racial inequality. It's called Two Countries, No Home, and it was created by Verity Oswin and Leslie Atkins as part of the New York Times documentary project. Let's look at just a few minutes of it. To get started with this new genre, let's think about how documentary videos are similar to and different from podcasts. Comparing is a great way to analyze genres, since it helps you think more precisely about their qualities. As you watch, will you pay special attention to the qualities this documentary video shares with the podcast from the last session? What feels the same? And pay attention to what feels different. Pause the video and go back to the lesson platform and watch the first 2 minutes of the New York Times video. Did you watch the first 2 minutes of the video and then pause? Well, now I want you to think, what seems similar to the podcast that you listened to yesterday? And what's different? Go ahead and jot some notes in your reading notebook. If you need a few minutes to finish jotting your notes, go ahead and pause this video. Otherwise, I want to share some of the things that I noticed that you probably noticed too. So, just like in podcasts, there's a soundtrack in the background, and people are speaking, telling their own stories. The most obvious difference is that with video, you can see. You see the setting and see who's speaking. You may also have noticed the text boxes that appear on screen and give information. Instead of having a narrator, in this video, the text boxes seem to be giving the background information about Rufino's story. Can I share a tip that will pay off whenever you want to learn from documentaries? Today, I want to teach you that documentarians have their own set of craft techniques they turn to as they're filming and editing. When readers consider the kinds of techniques the author uses and how the author uses them, they'll better notice the author's main points, the ideas, and themes. Let's focus on a couple of techniques that you'll encounter, particularly in videos. There are many more, but these are always going to be important. We'll add them to the list of craft moves in digital text. Close-in shots. When the filmmaker zooms in on small details, a person's face or a crack in the sidewalk, it pays to look closely and ask, what could this be a symbol of? What bigger idea is it connected to? Wide angle or panning shots. When the filmmaker uses a wide angle lens to capture a large space or swivels a camera to show a large space bit by bit, viewers can think, what's this whole setting like? What's the mood of this place? You'll want to take a minute and add these to your chart. Expect that craft moves in digital text connect to and support bigger ideas. Now I want you to go back to the documentary. This time, watch until 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Think about the close-in shots first. I want you to try to think this out. How do the close-in shots, the details the camera zooms in on, connect to a bigger idea in the film? Could these details be symbolic? Wow, are you thinking what I'm thinking? If this were a podcast, I don't think I would have really understood what Rufino was talking about. As he's speaking, the camera shows us the interior of the house. We see how small it is, but also the stove with everything over a single flame. The holes in the roof with the light pouring in? So let's think. What's the central idea at this point? Well, Rufino says that he realized how different his home village really was from the United States. These images really help us understand this. It's not just that people aren't on cell phones or they don't have fancy cars. The stove, it looks like a campfire, and the roof seems like it wouldn't protect from the weather. These seem like symbols of home: a roof over your head, an oven, and a stove. But the roof and stove here seem more like camping than living in a home. Do you see how that worked? I chose to think carefully about a technique I know video directors use, which in this case was close-in shots. Then I practiced what we do with any part of the text, connecting it to a bigger idea. In this case, asking what these details might symbolize helped. Let's try it again, but this time we'll be thinking about times when a documentary uses a wide-angle shot to capture a large setting, and when the camera swivels to show a very wide scene that unfolds slowly. We'll watch a few more seconds of the video. As you watch, think, how do these wide shots of large settings connect to a central idea or a theme in the text? This time, watch to 3 minutes and 35 seconds. All right, so you watched through 3 minutes and 35 seconds. I want you to think, why do you think the director included these shots of the landscape? What's a central idea or theme that connects to these? Remembering what Rufino is saying at this point might help, just like it helped when looking at the close-in shots in the house. Go ahead and pause this video while you jot some of your thinking. Did you notice that in the part, Rufino is talking about the family's decision to migrate to America, and that the open road, the wide landscapes, and finally the shot of the Welcome to Cairo, Georgia sign all seem to connect to the idea that America seemed like a wonderful place to move to. The mood has shifted from the earlier scenes to something more hopeful. Of course, we know the end of the story, which is that this move was also tragic. So it's a bittersweet kind of hopeful at this point in the film. This work pays off. Just a little attention to some of this craft in film and in podcasts can go a long way. Remember, the real goal is to fully understand a complex topic. Making use of all a director or author is doing is a great way to make sure that you're not just understanding on a surface level. The craft of a text is often what helps us get to deeper understandings. Readers, I'm going to suggest that you spend at least part of your time studying a documentary related to your issue. You have some new ways to watch these films, paying attention to the camera angles in addition to the multiple storytellers and the soundtracks. You'll be choosing a text to recommend soon, and you'll want to have watched at least one video. It may become the text you most recommend. Remember that you can study a documentary carefully, noting the techniques the author uses and how the author uses them, because those techniques often fit with the author's main points. Off you go.